2021. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Even though we're meeting in person, it's still closed to the public, so I assume I have to read the standard preamble here. This meeting is being held in accordance with the Governor of Massachusetts' March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20. No public attendance shall be permitted in person. The public can access this meeting via WebEx technology. Until further notice, the Burlington School Committee will hear public comments virtually only. Meetings are also broadcast live on the Burlington Cable Access TV, BCAT as usual. To join this meeting remotely, the link is townofburlington.webex.com/townofburlington. The meeting number is, access code is 129-608-1510. Joined by phone is 1-408-418-9388. So, that being said, we'll move on to the first item on our agenda, which is approval of the minutes of the meeting of April 13th, 2021. The chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's 5-0-0. Actually, do we still have to do a roll call?
No.
We don't?
No.
Okay. Thank you. Next item is public participation. Anybody in the public who happens to be watching this evening who does want to comment on any agenda item or any public participation, please raise your hand virtually. Mr. Kuhn is kind of monitoring the WebEx, and hopefully we'll see anybody who has an interest in asking a question or otherwise participating in the meeting. So as far as, before we move to public participation, approval of the warrant, Chair will entertain a motion to approve the warrant.
So moved.
Moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the warrant as submitted. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. Chair votes abstaining. 4-0-1. Public participation. Is there anybody who would like to comment on something that's not otherwise on our agenda this evening? If so, raise your hand in the WebEx, and Mr. Kuna will let us know. You don't see anything, Bob?
No one's there yet. Nope.
Okay. Item 5, informational reports. Dr. Conti.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll start with Sarah Shake, our student representative.
She's not on yet.
She's not on yet. Okay, so we will see if there's any other subcommittees. I believe since our last meeting, there was a full Ways and Means meeting. I'm trying to go back. So that was on the Wednesday prior to spring break, and the full Ways and Means group voted to support our operating budget and our accommodated budget 12-0-0. So we have unanimous support from Ways and Means.
The WebEx link isn't working. Nobody can get in.
Okay.
All right, we're working on the WebEx link for anyone who's listening. It's not working. All right. So again, Mr. Chair, I think that was good news. I wanted to make sure I thanked the school subcommittee. I think they put in a lot of time. I think they asked so many detailed questions and got information. I think Nicole's work to organize the budget and make sure everyone had sufficient backup answered a lot of the questions that people had ahead of time. I think we had a good conversation, and we brought the budget in at the 3.5% that we agreed to in December. So again, I think that it all worked out, and
Yeah.
I think they were supportive of our efforts.
Yeah, I thought it was a very positive discussion, and everybody seemed to be on board. Have they set a date for the warrant articles? Because I don't believe they reviewed those.
They haven't done the warrant articles yet, and that was going to be a question for Mr. Riggs tonight. I think
Okay.
we have 2 Wednesdays, this Wednesday and next Wednesday.
I actually see Roger up there. It looks like the WebEx link might be working here.
Yeah, Roger here.
Hi, Roger.
Hi there. I asked for the school committee, the school warrant articles to be on the Ways and Means meeting of May 5th. And I scheduled a meeting on this Thursday to meet with the subcommittee to go over the warrant articles.
So we're not till May 5th. Thank you, Roger. Mr. Riggs, sorry. Mr. Chair, if I could go back to the student representative?
Yes.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
Do-
I'm so confused because the meeting.
Do you have a late pass, Sarah?
Huh?
Do you have a late pass?
Can you give me one?
Yes, I can, and it's my fault, so I apologize. But are you ready to give your report now?
Yeah, I actually don't have much to say today, but it's all just regarding like end of the year for like the seniors. So internships are starting next Monday, which means that for the full return, almost like half of the senior class won't be in the building because of internships. So we're looking forward to that, and that means that this week is essentially the last week for seniors, and like there are classes in person and remote as well, which is crazy because we don't know how the school year already passed by, and we're gonna graduate soon, which is very weird to think about.
Sarah, can I just interject one thing? Because
Yeah.
you had mentioned at the last meeting for the first time, and I know that I made a decision that didn't allow that to happen. So I wanted to apologize to the senior class through you. So if you could just pass on my apologies. It was a big factor in us, in the discussion we had. It was a hard decision to make. So we did take your feelings on this week very seriously. We just felt like it was, with the numbers of positivity that we were seeing, we couldn't bring students back altogether safely until the numbers came down. So again, I apologize for this week.
I think we understand like COVID and all that is something we really can't control at this point. I think the goal is just for us to be safe. So I understand why you made the decision, and I'm still glad that we can still do things like the internship. So, and there are some seniors who are going to be fully returned and seeing each other, so that's good. And
Sarah, do you want to put Mr. Sullivan on the spot? He's on the call.
sure.
You can put Mr. Sullivan on the spot. So, Mr. Sullivan, why don't you, Sarah wanted to talk about some senior events. So what's happening?
Sarah first, and then I'd be happy to.
No, I think she wanted to put you on the spot, Mr. Sullivan.
Okay, that sounds like you wanted to, but sure, I'd be happy to. I did send something out yesterday to students and parents in the senior class, and just kind of updating on our planning. I know typical senior events may look a little bit different this spring, but we're fully committed to running and having every event that our kids typically get to experience. Those include awards night, scholarship night, the athletic banquet, the senior breakfast, and I think most importantly, an in-person graduation on June 6th, which we're really focusing a lot of our efforts on making sure it goes well. I know there's been a lot of discussion about prom, and I know that is a big event, and I think over the years, I've enjoyed the Common just as much as some of our families have. Seeing the smiles on families' faces up there and the experience they get to have, I know is really important to students and their families. So it's disappointing to me too that a traditional prom can't take place, but I hope everyone can understand that our typical prom is 500 students, and even if we had the just the senior class with no out of school dates, we have 242 kids that would be eligible to attend. So a real problem for me was having a situation off the bat where 92 students couldn't attend an event. I just didn't know where to begin with that. So I have been in close conversation with the senior class advisors who has been talking to the students that are on the student council. We did a survey before the vacation week to get an idea of what students might want to attend. We have a planning meeting tomorrow morning with the senior class advisors and the student council. And the prom really is a student event. The principal of the school and administration typically doesn't plan the prom, and we don't want to because we want it to be an event that's fun for students, that's meaningful for them. We really try to have as much input from them as possible. Saying that, I understand that it's a lot to put on kids, and so the administration and the advisors will help with anything that we can. We'll put the full weight of everything that we're able to do. I understand I've heard from a lot of parents and community members that they're willing to volunteer to help, and we will, I'm certain, be calling on people for assistance once we have a better idea of what it is that we're going to do. Um, I meet weekly with local principals that in the Middlesex League and some other surrounding communities. I haven't heard of anybody that has found that magic potion of replicating a prom. I think everyone is looking at hosting an outdoor event with music and dressed to or like look nice and take pictures with their prom dates or their friends. We're talking about bringing in some food trucks. Really, it's up to the kids what they want, and we'll see what we're able to do once we have a better idea of what it is that they want to do. So we're not saying no to anything, but we obviously would have to get permission from the Board of Health once we have a more firm plan in place and have a better direction on what they want to do. But we're certainly committed to making it a memorable event for our kids, and hopefully it's something that they'll all want to attend.
Mark, thank you very much. So I think it just adds some clarity. I think there was some confusion out there. I got some of the same emails that you received as well. So thank you for clarifying that. Sarah.
Yeah, and I think, and if the students want to, if we have an event on the 14th, if there's an attachment to calling it prom, I think we're getting caught in semantics a little bit as to what we're going to call the event. A night under the stars, a night to remember, the senior, the final senior. I mean, I think there's a lot of different kind of terminology that's being put out there. I'd like to avoid calling it a prom because I don't want to add further disappointment if it's not what kids might expect when they hear the word prom. But I'd ask everyone to just keep an open mind, and I'd encourage every senior to attend whatever it is that we do, because I think the most important thing is to have an inclusive class event that has as many members of the senior class at it as possible.
Thanks. Go ahead, Sarah. You can close this thing.
Yeah, I was about to say the same things, that we're planning a lot of things and we have a lot of ideas in mind. It's just that like we haven't finalized them because it takes a lot to plan something as big and something that we haven't obviously done before. Yeah, we're looking forward to like tomorrow's meeting and hopefully getting more information out about the May 14th event and more. And I just had two more things to add to the report. All the clubs at the school are basically like ending their term for the year in a way, and we're having like new leadership like position like elections for a lot of the clubs for the next year. So that's really exciting. And then the last thing is that this Thursday is the equity committee meeting. So usually I would have like a report on behalf of the equity committee, but I'll be able to give that at the next meeting. But yeah, that was it.
Sarah, thank you, and thank
all your efforts, and again, your classmates, and Mark, thank you for the administration and the class advisors for planning. This is again, it's an unprecedented situation, and Sarah, as the student school committee rep, I know the school committee, I don't want to speak for them. I know everyone is willing to support senior events, safe senior events, and we really want your senior year to be memorable, and I just think given the group of kids that are seniors, no matter what you do, as long as you do it together, it'll be a positive experience. So I do feel through the chair, the students I sort of feel most heartbroken for are the senior class. I think they had a tough spring as juniors, and this has really been a challenging year for them, and they've just been incredible in terms of their tolerance of a lot of change. And so, again, I just want to, Sarah, on behalf of the committee, thank the senior class through you.
Before we move on, I just want to go back to public participation. I don't think we have had our WebEx connection in place. So in the event there's anybody who wanted to speak in public participation, I just wanted to give them that opportunity.
I see no raised hands.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Subcommittee reports, anybody have anything other than the Ways and Means? No?
Not me.
There was a MSBA meeting, but I think that's further on down the agenda. We can talk about that when we get there. Ways and Means, Roger, do you have anything for us?
No, I think I would have mentioned about the warrant article review on Thursday. Thanks.
All right, item 6 on our agenda is coronavirus update from the superintendent. That's you.
It is me. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll eventually stop calling you Madam Chair, Mr. Chair.
You should call him Tom.
I know. Our middle school started back 5 days full on Monday. Spoke to Ms. Purchase on Monday and again this morning. And I spoke to we had our joint labor management committee meeting this afternoon and spoke to some of the teachers. And Mr. Foss, we sort of had a brief conversation at the start of the meeting. I think they said it was like late August, early September, in late April. So it was essentially the first day of school. Everyone was excited to see the kids back in classes. The kids were excited to see sort of school as it looks more familiar to them. The buses were late, as always typically happens, and we were sort of getting the bus routes down and getting the right kids in the right bus and arrival and dismissal procedures. But I think the administration and the teachers at the middle school just have done, again, an incredible job preparing, and I think that adjusting to essentially the start of a new school year here at the end of April. I think we're in our third full week at the elementary school, and I think we've mentioned a lot of the elementary school prior to this. And again, the parents that I've spoken to of elementary students are saying the kids are very happy to be back in school, that lunch and recess is going well, and I think the teachers really are enjoying the full day experience as opposed to the sort of 3/4 day or the half day with the half remote in the afternoon. So I think all that is happening well. I'm going to say in the meantime, both at the elementary and middle school, we have students learning remotely, and again, those teachers are continuing to do a high quality job. So I think they're offering a remote option. The high school is hybrid this week, so cohort A just finished Monday, Tuesday. Wednesday is fully remote. Cohort B will be Thursday, Friday, and then Monday, May 3rd, the cohorts will be combined, and we'll have a new high school schedule that'll look more like the high school schedule in the fall, and all the students will be combined. So all the in-person students will be combined 5 days a week. So what'll that be like? It'll be like, again, the first day of school at the high school. So I'm sure the buses will be late, and it'll be less of a problem than at the middle school. I think students will be looking for some of their classes and getting to know their schedules. And I think that we'll sort of experience that. As Sarah mentioned, senior internships start on Monday as well, so we'll probably have about 150 fewer students in the building. So I think that'll help with some of the distancing moving forward. But again, in the meeting today, spoke with Mark, the high school's ready. I think, again, the teachers are excited to have the kids back full-time. So I think we are ready to go. So certainly by this time next week, K to 12 will have all students back in 5 days a week for full days. And so that's what I would say. I know that Massachusetts has opened up vaccines, I believe, for everyone 16 and older. So I would encourage families of high school students who are 16 and older to get your high school students vaccinated. That would really help us. And my understanding is that probably relatively soon, maybe in the June timeframe or for this summer, they'll open up vaccines for children who are 12 years and older. And then I would encourage families of children older than 12 or 12 or older to get their children vaccinated as soon as that becomes available and open to them. And that just means that the definition of close contact and quarantining are changing with the number of people who are vaccinated. And that means we can keep classrooms open longer. The more people who are vaccinated, the more students who are vaccinated, the longer we can keep classrooms open. So again, if you have a child over 16 currently, please get them vaccinated. And as soon as possible, 12 and older, when that becomes available, my hope is there'll be more vaccines available and we can get as many students vaccinated as possible for the start of school in the fall. I do get the question all the time, Mr. Chair, will the fall be more like a regular fall? And my belief is that it will be. But I also think the more people who are vaccinated, 12 and older, the more typical the fall will look. There may still be masks for certain experiences and certain age groups, but I do think our schedules are going to be running 5 days a week, full day, and we'll have a more typical schedule for the start of school. So the only other update we got today around 2:30 is that the Mass Department of Public Health has changed the definition of close contact and quarantining. So they've added a third category. So, and this is just more informational. So if students are, these are all students that are masked. So first of all, everyone has to be in a mask. But if students are less than 3 feet, you are considered a close contact and need to be quarantined if someone is identified as positive. So if you're identified as positive and you can say you're near someone for longer than 10 minutes, under 3 feet, you would be considered a close contact and need to be quarantined. The category that they created was if you're between 3 feet and 6 feet, masked again, you are considered a close contact, but you don't require quarantine. So again, we have a close contact with quarantine, a close contact without quarantine, and then obviously if you're more than 6 feet, then you're not considered a close contact. So they've sort of added an intermediate stage. So parents may be getting letters that their child is a close contact, but we are not, the Board of Health isn't requiring them to be quarantined, which would mean they're in that 3 to 6 foot spacing window. So again, that happened this afternoon. We'll probably need to change our letters a little bit, and we'll see how that communication is moving forward. I do think it'll help because the Department of Ed was saying spacing needs to be 3 feet or more, and the contact tracing from the Mass Department of Public Health was at 6 feet. So we were sort of, we didn't have agreement. I think this is more agreement. So that's what I'd say. Bob, for the transportation, again, the buses for the middle school are running, and again, pretty typical to the start of a year, and Carrie said it's even better after the second day, and what are you hearing?
Through the chair. I'm going to echo some of the comments from the prior meeting, with the middle school being the first in the morning and the first in the afternoon as well. No fault of their own, but to continue with contact tracing and keeping distancing. They're limiting how they're loading the buses, and that is causing potentially, a couple-minute delay, which does impact, obviously, some of the other schools further downstream. I was there this afternoon, and as Ms. Purchase mentioned, they were out of there just a few minutes past 2 o'clock. Now, again, some of our elementary schools do dismiss at 2:15, so by the time they do the middle school runs and load the buses at 2:15 or even come to the buses, these buses are, approaching the elementary schools around 2:18, 2:20, 2:23. So we are seeing a slight delay there. The good news is that changing the middle school routes by adding all 18 buses is now bringing the schools closer to the neighborhoods and closer to the elementary schools, so that is helping. But again, we're seeing a 5-10 minute delay at the elementary school, which is compounding to a 10-15 minute delay at the second elementary school tier, and also at the high school as well. So it will tighten up. It is just like the start of the school year. We did, with the bus company, they practiced last week the new routes. They have been driving some of these routes. They know the streets, but again, just the routes themselves are slightly different. Kids loading is a little bit slower just due to social distancing and so forth. But again, I think in a few more days, we'll be able to tighten these routes up again just in time for the high schools to change it up a slight bit. But again, that'll be on the third tier. So we may see some high school students or high school routes that are running a little bit late just for a couple of days, and hopefully we can tighten those up pretty quickly.
Thank you, Bob. Any questions or comments for Mr. Kuhner on the transportation? Okay. School building facilities, BHS feasibility study.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll turn it back to Bob.
I believe you're probably getting sick of me saying this, but I do not have a full status report to give on this week. I can make excuses as to why there's been delays, but I think most of us know what they are. In-person meeting has been difficult. The coronavirus has had some setbacks for a few of the companies. In the beginning, we had a little bit of contract negotiation that we needed to change some wording and so forth. So we're still working on the contract, but again, the work is still happening in the background. Really, some of the in-person stuff has been setting us back a little bit. And again, like I said, I don't have anything to report as far as anything that's substantial. But just know that the work is continuing, and we still expect to obviously produce a feasibility study for the high school.
Yeah, again, Mr. Chair, Bob, the agenda item isn't to hold you accountable. It's just to make sure that we keep it on our front sort of burners, and that the high school issues aren't going away. So I think that's why it's on the agenda. So please, it's not, we know the work's going on. When we have a feasibility study, we are working on it. It's really to communicate to the committee that we haven't forgotten about the high school and the high school needs, so.
Questions, comments? Martha?
Yes, thank you for the update, but I just wasn't sure I heard what you said, that the feasibility work has begun, even though we're still kind of figuring out exactly the wording. Is that accurate?
Yes,
Okay.
so through the chair, let me clarify that just to make sure everyone understands. No company wants to work for free,
Yeah.
and of course, without a contract.
Yeah.
Some of the companies we have done previous work with and have already done some of this research before. So they are continuing to communicate with me along the lines of this feasibility study with the intent of knowing that this is happening. There's no promise to them or anybody that they're getting paid for the work that they've done. It's just that we've been able to communicate through the fact that some of this work has already been previously completed. Some of these companies have been on site before as well too. So it's more double checking and making sure some of the information that they have is correct. That's where we're at in the process right now. The on-site stuff is what's been the delay. That's due to the contract.
Okay, well, thank you for keeping it going to the extent that we can, and I appreciate it. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, seeing nothing, on to item 7, communication. National Science Foundation grant, Dr. Conti.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As challenging as this year has been, I think one of the things that I get most frustrated about is we haven't been able to talk a whole lot about learning or education or some of the accomplishments that our teachers and educators have continued to work on. And I know the committee likes hearing about that, and I actually like sharing that information. So I just thought tonight we could hear from Shireen Terrell, who is our computer science teacher at the high school. Shireen has been working incredibly hard on an innovative pathways program, which we had been awarded, I think, 2 years ago, which we will refresh the committee's knowledge of. But Shireen has also successfully worked with EDC on a National Science Foundation grant, and Burlington was the lead district in the award of this grant. So I just wanted to have Shireen join us, and she has some slides just to talk about the grant opportunities. I think they're going to take place over the next 3 years, and I think it's exciting stuff. So, Shireen, thank you very much.
Oh, I'm happy to be here, and I hope I can share the slide. Hold on a second, I'm not sure I can. And I always say it's embarrassing when the computer science teacher cannot share something. So, can you see the slide?
We can.
I mean,
Can we?
Shireen, I can share them for you if you want to. I'll put them on the screen and then you can talk through them.
Okay, it's just one slide.
That might be easier because Bob can, I think, make it bigger. All right.
Thanks, Bob. That looks good.
So Shireen, thank you for joining us tonight.
So yeah, it's good to see everybody, and it was actually great to hear all about the senior events. So computer science, we are still building on our computer science innovation pathway, which the focus of that is to make sure that kids have 2 college level courses and then a capstone project. And actually, I'm happy to kind of see Roger and Steve here because they were really instrumental in getting this going. So this year, the capstone project's been a little bit on the kind of smaller side, but we have been working with the Educational Development Center and DESE and CS for MA and the districts Everett and Chelsea, looking at how we can expand upon what we're doing and help prepare students for careers in data science. And kind of the birth of this was that in Boston, there was a pilot where they had high school students who learned how to use Tableau to create data visualizations. And they were hired as interns, which is great. So we felt like, hey, let's build on this. And in particular, data science is something that really cuts across science, business, art, computer science, and math. So it's a growing field. As you know, everything we do creates data. So we want to prepare our students to actually be on the forefront and know how to manage that data and use it. So the goal of this program is to essentially, it's called a research practice partnership. And what we're doing is we're going to pilot 2 college level courses. One will be data visualization and the other will be programming in Python in data science. So that will happen not next year, but the year after. And then the other piece of this, which is pretty unique, is bringing data into the civics requirement so that all students have an opportunity to get an experience with data and see how it can really apply to helping them be informed citizens. So again, that's something that we're kind of taking it slow, we're piloting it, and in our school, we'll try things out. The grant money is to pay for stipends for the various teachers who will be involved, pay for training, and I'm looking forward to seeing a new program created that I think will build on everything that we've already got. We have a lot of students who have taken quite a few computer science courses and they're looking for the next step. And then we also have students from other disciplines who want to have an exposure to technology but might not want to follow the traditional computer science pathway. So that's it in a nutshell, I think. The other thing is that once we pilot all this, the goal is for DESE to help to promote it to other school districts. So hopefully what we do in Burlington will help other schools.
And so, again, Shireen, Burlington is the lead district in the NSF grant, in the National Science Foundation grant. Our partners, you said, are Chelsea and Everett, and at our meeting 2 weeks ago, they mentioned bringing some other districts into the process as well in year 2 and year 3. So,
Yeah.
so again, I think it's not just about, we're trying to collaborate as much as we can and to expand the innovative pathway. Shireen mentioned a growing interest, and I need to give the middle school teachers some credit as well. They are putting together, I think, a great 6, 7, and 8 computer science sequence. And I know Diana Marcus has a Python club after school that's really popular. And so, Shireen, I think you're probably going to be getting some students who are familiar with Python coming out of the middle school.
Yeah, it's been great to see what Diana's been doing, and her Girls Who Code Club is awesome, and some of the high school girls are helping out, and yeah, we're really appreciative of everything that's happening in the middle school. It's really going to be a great foundation and a springboard to grow all these programs, so.
And again, these courses will be in addition to the computer science courses that we're offering already?
Yes. And, I mean, we are finding that the kids, they go through the courses, the computer science courses, and they're looking for something else their senior year. And again, we have students in business and in, interested in art and science who also want a touch of how can they use data in their field. So this is kind of filling a void or a new area of growth, and we'll try it and see how it goes.
So
But I
again,
mean, data science is truly an emerging field, so I think it's important that we prepare students.
so just to prepare the committee, when they see future programs of studies, they may see the data in history in the social studies department or the history department. They may see the data visualization course in the art department or the business department, and they may see the data programming in Python in even a different department. Is that correct?
Yep, it's possible. And actually, I just spoke with Holly in the science department, and she's interested in the data visualization course as well. So, I mean, hopefully we'll see. I mean, that's the whole idea of this grant, actually. And there's an evaluation component, is to see in a school system like ours, where is the best fit for this new type of course. So yes, the school committee could see it in any number of places.
Because I think that Shireen and I bumped into over the years that we've been working on computer science is high schools like to categorize everything, and disciplines like computer science, which require multiple skills, is it in the math department? Is it in the science department? Even the licensing is a bit challenging. So part of the reason that we struggle with computer science and fitting it into a pretty rigid course requirements for our high school students is that it doesn't fit into a historical sequence of classes that kids typically take. So I think that's why we're looking for creative ways, or Shireen is certainly looking for creative ways to allow this to fit into schedules. And then we just need to work with the students in higher ed and the counseling department, because it may be that an advanced course in data visualization or data programming might be more attractive than AP calculus or something like that. So we have all of these traditional pathways in math and science, the biology, chemistry, physics pathways that may need to be disrupted a little bit with some of these courses. So again, Shireen, obviously you're doing incredible work. And this is, again, part of the innovative pathways work that is also ongoing.
Right, and again, the whole concept is to give students access to college-level courses, because research shows that students are more successful if they're exposed to those courses in high school. So we're we're
So
hoping
we
that
take-
works.
The data visualization and the data programming would be dual courses, and right now, Shireen, that would be through Bunker Hill Community College?
Right, and again, I mean, we'll work those details out, but yes, right now, we're working with Bunker Hill. And as probably all of you know, we do dual enrollment with Middlesex with our other programming courses, which has been really successful. And yeah, I would just say that, with all of this, I think it's infusing these skills into, cross-curricular, just like we do with literacy. It's a new kind of literacy, and it's exciting to be in a position where we can try different things. So thanks to Eric and to Mark for your flexibility in letting this happen. It makes a difference.
You're doing all the work, Shireen, so thank you very much. Mr. Chair, are there any
Thanks, Shereen. Anybody have any questions or comments on this matter? Martha?
Yeah, I just want to thank you again, Shireen, for all the work you've done over the years you've been here, getting these kinds of all these programs and courses that you've gotten going, and clearly there's a really big interest among our students, and some of that's because it's an interesting subject, and some of it's because of the kind of programming that you've put in place and the teaching that you and your colleagues are doing. So I wanted to thank people. Thank you for that. And this is just great. Having this new grant to be able to expand is wonderful. So thank you. I know it takes a lot to put grants together. So all the work that you've been doing. I also want to just acknowledge to people who are watching that I figured out that if you're watching the meeting on WebEx, all you can see is the horseshoe. And so when I'm speaking, people may not know it's Martha Simon. You may not be able to tell. If people want to watch it on BCAT, then the BCAT cameras will focus in on the person who's speaking more. If that's been frustrating, because I know when I was watching it through WebEx before, I saw that it was, you can barely see who we are. So I want to acknowledge that that is not ideal now that we're back here. So thank you, everybody, for your patience with all this technology. We're doing the best we can.
Thank you, Martha. Anybody else?
And just one more point of gratitude is Nicole had to navigate all the federal grant departments and documents. And I think you said that took hours and hours, so thank you.
And what
Yes,
people,
thank you to Nicole, and also just, again, thanks to Steve and Roger for your role in really working on our pathway program and for kind of being the bridge, to keep things going. So thanks to both of you, and hopefully I'll see you in person soon.
Thanks, Shereen. Good job. Appreciate all your efforts. Thank you. All right, next item, capital warrant articles, approval.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think they are in your packet, and so requesting school committee individually approve the 6 warrant articles that have been submitted for May town meeting. And again, it's recommended the school committee approve with individual votes of the 6 May town meeting warrant articles with the language provided on the following 2 pages. So I'll just summarize the projects, and then, Mr. Chair, I will read the warrant language for approval. Is that okay?
That's fine. Somebody will make the motion after you read the,
Okay, so again, the 6, just in order, are the Burlington High School turf field and track resurfacing, and that's for $725,000. The ECM, Bob, stands for? Energy conservation measures, insulation and weather stripping at Burlington High School and Marshall Simons Middle School. That's $187,000. Francis Wyman intercom replacement at $272,400. The sanitary product dispensers system-wide are $55,000. And then we have the non-capital warrant, which is established the district reserve fund. So, and then the non-capital, again, would be the community custodial, which I think everyone is familiar with at this point. Okay, so again, the article numbers haven't been established in the warrant. So for the Burlington High School turf field replacement and track resurface, It's to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, borrow or otherwise provide the sum of $725,000 or any other sum for the purpose of funding the replacement of the turf field and the resurfacing of the track at Burlington High School's varsity field, same to be spent under the direction of the school committee or to act in any other manner in relation thereto.
Is there a
So
motion?
moved. I'll second it.
Moved and seconded to approve the financial article regarding the Burlington High School turf field replacement and track resurfacing. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 500.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To see if the town, the next warrant article, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, borrow or otherwise provide the sum of $187,000 or any other sum for the purpose of funding insulation and weather stripping at Burlington High School and Middle School, same to be spent under the direction of the school committee or to act in any other manner in relation thereto.
So moved. So moved.
Moved and
Second.
seconded. Discussions or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of the warrant article regarding the high school and middle school installation and weather stripping program? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That also passes 500.
The next article, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, borrow or otherwise provide the sum of $272,400 or any other sum for the purpose of funding the replacement of the intercom at Francis Wyman Elementary School, same to be spent under the direction of the school committee or to act in any other manner in relation thereto.
Motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the warrant article regarding the Francis Wyman intercom replacement. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That also passes 500.
Okay, thank you. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, borrow or otherwise provide the sum of $55,000 or any other sum for the purpose of funding the installation of sanitary hygiene product dispensers district-wide in all school bathrooms, same to be spent under the discretion of the school committee or to act in any other manner in relation thereto.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. And
My comment is just that the wording is under the direction of, if is that what we're voting on? I don't know how exact we have to be, but okay, so, thank you.
Anything further? All in favor of the warrant article regarding system-wide sanitary hygiene product dispensers? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 500.
Okay, the next one is the community custodial. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, or otherwise provide the sum of $47,464 or any other sum to be expended under the direction of the Burlington School Committee for the purpose of community custodial fees to fund events which are not school events in order to cover Burlington Scout organizations, PTO meetings, boosters, citations, youth basketball, youth volleyball, youth baseball association, Pop Warner, hockey, soccer and skating associations, and other not-for-profit Burlington civic organizations, and to act in any manner in relation thereto.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or discussions on that item? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That also passes 500.
Okay, for the last article, I just want to bring the committee's attention. If you see in your packet the bolded words, "and adopt the provisions thereof." So let me read it, and I will tell you. So, to see if the town will vote to establish a reserve fund under Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 13D, and adopt the provisions thereof, that phrase, for the future payment of accrued liabilities for earned leave that is due to employees upon retirement or separation of employment, and to designate payment authorization from this fund to require approval from the school superintendent, Ways and Means Chair, and town accountant, or to act in any other manner in relation thereto. So I just want to bring to the committee's attention, or Mr. Chair, in the warrant, it does not say "and adopt the provisions thereof." So School Committee Council requested that we add that, so we would need to add that wording
On
at
town meeting floor?
town meeting floor.
Okay,
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion on this item?
Who
I-
seconded it?
What's that?
Who seconded it?
I thought I heard somebody second it.
Good ears.
I'd just like to say that there is more, I mean, I assume we'll give more backup information to the town meeting, but I think this is a really important step in being fiscally responsible, as we've been attempting to do as much, as much as we need to. And this is another step in being fiscally responsible. So I do hope that town meeting will support establishing this fund so we can address this issue.
We'll just have to make a note to remind ourselves to find somebody to put that amendment
Speak
on
on
the
town.
town meeting floor.
Okay.
Any further discussion or questions regarding this item?
One question that was asked of me was, how is this going to get funded?
I think we're still working with council on the funding possibilities, but it could be if there are funds left over at the end of the fiscal year and operating, we would ask the school committee to transfer those funds into this account per se. And then in future operating budgets, you may see some money designated for this fund as well. So I think that's what we're asking. We could also ask town meeting to put funds into this account, but that would be, that's not what this article, this article is just to establish the reserve fund.
Okay.
Anything else? Seeing nothing, all in favor of this warrant article, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 500. All right. Next up is the 2021-2022 Teachers Calendar, second reading.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, we went over it at last meeting, so this is the second reading. It was on the following pages. It's recommended the school committee approve the teacher's school calendar. Just wanted to highlight a few dates. So the first day of school for students is going to be August 30th. That's a Monday. That's for grades 1 through 12. And September 9th for preschool and kindergarten students. So for any parents who are listening, again, the first day of students, grades 1 through 12 is going to be Monday, August 30th. And then for preschool and kindergarten would be Thursday, September 9th. And then, again, we believe the first day for teachers to report back is going to be Thursday, August 26th.
Thank you. Martha?
We discussed this at the first reading last time, and I had expressed a concern about having the professional days where there aren't any in September and October, that there are 2 in January and 2 in March. And I had hoped that there'd be a conversation about moving one of the professional development days into September or October. October has only one other day that's not a school teaching classroom day, instructional day. So if that conversation's been had and it's been decided to do this, I'd like to hear what the reasoning was. And if it hasn't, I'd actually like to ask that be attempted before we finalize the calendar.
Yeah, we have to put that on the joint labor management. We just didn't get to it today, so I'd like to
Okay.
do that through them.
Okay, good.
If I may make a suggestion, Mr. Chair, if you could adopt the calendar, just so there's a start date and an end date that families can plan around. Ms. Simon will certainly look at moving a PD day, but we wouldn't be adding any days to the calendar. We would just be rearranging some days, and I think if we gave families 3 or 4 or 5 months' notice, I think that would be sufficient. So, understanding you want to move some of the PD days or one of the PD days into October.
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan.
Okay,
Thank you.
that's acceptable?
Through the chair, sorry.
Chris?
Good.
So you'll discuss that and see how the staff feels about that?
Yes.
Okay. 'Cause it seems like they should have input into that decision.
Yes, and they've had input into this calendar already. So I think they approve this. I'll certainly give them feedback. And then, again, Ms. Simon, if there's strong feelings not to move the day and they give a reason, I'll certainly bring that back to you. But
Great.
I'd like to have that chance to have that conversation.
Absolutely. I thought that it might have happened, but
And
if
I
it
just-
hasn't happened, I
no.
understand why. Yes, thank you.
Just haven't had
Okay.
it yet, but I will.
My other question is this, on the kindergarten is, again, going back so late. Do they have the same number of school days that the other grades have?
No, they don't.
And that is because we don't have to, or what's the reason?
We don't have to. Kindergarten is not required, so grades 1 through 12 are required. And there are other activities happening during that time where students are being brought into school in small groups.
The
They tend to,
screening and all of that.
the
yeah.
screening, and they get to know their teacher, and
All right, so
there's,
they won't have 180 days then, the
they,
kindergarten is?
no, and they will not, and they have not had 180 days typically.
Yeah, okay, just this particular year, it's just a pretty big stretch from the 30th to the 9th, but it is what it is.
And that's to have a common start day for all of the,
I know.
all of the students. And then we will be sending a survey out to parents in May about maintaining the kindergarten schedule that matches grades 1 through 5 versus going back to the shortened day, just to get some feedback on that. And there may be some additional staffing requirements that we would need to talk about as a result of that. So I guess, Mrs. Monaco, what I'm trying to say is we may have fewer days, but actually more instruction next year.
That'll be a complex conversation, because there are some parents who think that absolutely the kids should go, the kindergartners should go the full day. But there are other parents that really like the three-quarter day. So I think there's going to be differing opinions on that.
And that's like almost every other decision.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. All right, I will move that we adopt the teachers' Burlington School Calendar for the school year 2021, 2022 as presented in our agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that passes 500.
thank you.
Fox Hill Project, initial timeline.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and again, I want to make sure I thank Mr. Murphy for participating in the Massachusetts School Building Authority Board meeting and the following day's summary and workshop, as did Ms. Kasha and Mr. Cuna. And Mr. Denizio, the Assistant Town Manager, also participated, so I think that was great. Mr. Sagarino did attend the board meeting, so I saw him online. So I want to make sure I pass on my gratitude there. And Bob, please jump in, or Nicole, please jump in. Essentially, the feasibility period, or the eligibility period, I'm sorry, is 270 days total. And we wanted to try to give you some summary of what, from a sort of 10,000 feet, what is expected in that time. And so the eligibility period concludes after 270 days. My understanding is our project doesn't officially start until June 1st. That's what I believe I heard at the meeting. So it's really 270 days from June 1st. And so the documents in your packet sort of explain some of the steps that are there. I think the slide that I found very helpful as well is the one entitled MSBA Building Process, where you see the stars that say board vote and the $ that say funding vote. The funding votes will obviously be with town meeting, but if you could see where the school committee has to weigh in the votes that you need to take. So nothing gets done without the school committee's approval moving forward, even though there'll be lots of other people contributing to design work, plan work, but everything eventually comes back to this committee for your approval before moving on for the funding vote from town meeting or before moving on to anything else. I think so I think we have some initial work that we need to do, and then what we will begin to discuss prior to, I think, the end of the school year, so I'm trying to think next month, is we'll put together a building committee charge, and I think the MSBA has some clearly defined expectations for who should be on a building committee, numbers, and things like that we'll get to the committee ahead of time, and then we should probably discuss whether we want to ask for volunteers or how we want to go about the process. I'm assuming there's going to be high interest in serving on some of these committees, and again, the building committee is an official subcommittee, and I know that's next on the agenda, but it is an official subcommittee, and so the school committee needs to appoint them. And Sharon, when we did the Memorial School, again, agendas are posted, they're public meetings. I remember you attending, you posted minutes, so it's a very formal process, and so and I think it would be fair to let the folks know who are volunteering what they're volunteering for and the time commitment and sort of where we would need them to be. And then I think, just from prior experience, we would need to hire a owner's project management team, an OPM, and then a lot of the detail work the owner's project management team will do for the committee, but I think that has to be a public bid process as well. So other than that, I'm not sure, Bob, if you wanted to highlight anything.
No, again, I was just double checking. The eligibility period for Burlington does commence on June 1st. Prior to, on May 18th, electronically, the town will be receiving its first compliance certificate. So that will be on notice to probably myself, Ms. Kasha, the superintendent, and then Mr. Denizio and Mr. Sagarino on the town side. So when that email comes in, we'll have to complete that compliance certificate, and that will begin our entry into our eligibility feasibility period.
All right, so the building committee has to be in place by August 1st then, if it's 60 days from July. So that's something we're going to have to be doing during the summer to a certain degree. Last time we did this, the charge of the building committee was to design Memorial School. We all knew what we had in mind for the most part. When or how is the decision made as to how we're going to proceed here? We've had talked on and off over the last year or two about different options, and they kind of boil down to some sort of a larger facility that's going to house 2 schools worth of students on the Fox Hill site, or just replacing the Fox Hill School and then have to worry about Pine Glen down the road. Is this building committee going to be charged with making that decision, or is that going to be the school committee's decision to make between now and appointing the building committee for whatever we choose to go forward with?
Mr. Chair, my belief is the building committee is going to be making recommendations. Ultimately, the school committee is going to be making decisions. So the building committee is advisory in sort of nature. I think that's part of the educational profile in the enrollment process. So I think we form the building committee, and then we hire the owner's project management group, and then I think part of those conversations are going to be about the educational profile, and part of the educational profile for the community is how many elementary schools and what grade configurations you believe you want to have. So if we were switching to K-8 or doing something like that, I think that would be part of that conversation.
Okay, so we're not jumping right into designing a new school. The first hurdle is, what exactly are we going to try to do with this project?
Right, the design actually comes after a great deal of work because they need to figure out enrollment, and I think you know from prior experience, it has to be the MSBA's enrollment projections, not local enrollment projections, and so we just need to work with them, but I do think the educational profile is going to be critical work,
Okay.
and that will lead to
In the 270-day timeline is for the feasibility study agreement and the local vote authorization. Will we have to have decided what we're doing by that point?
Yeah, I think so, because then I think at that point after the eligibility, isn't that when we hire a designer, Bob, to design what we
So
what we
that's
decide.
essentially the timeline within which the school committee, or school building committee has to talk through this and come up to a final recommendation.
Yeah, next year is going to be really where you all need to decide if you want to have what size school, what grade configuration, and
Okay. So I guess people who want to serve on the committee have to understand that they have a little bit of an expanded role or decision-making process than what we've done in the past. In the past, we've known what we were doing. This time, we're not quite sure yet.
Well, again, in the past, Mr. Chair, we knew what we were doing in terms of replacing one school, but
Right.
we didn't necessarily know the impact of redistricting, for instance.
No, that's true, but we did know that there was going to be a building on the Memorial School site that was going to replace the existing Memorial School.
Mhm.
I think this is just a little bit different.
No, absolutely it is, because, again, the building will be on the Fox Hill property.
Right.
It will certainly replace the Snowflake, but it's going to depend on how, it may be a 500-student school or a 600-student school, or it could be an 800 or 900-student school. So, I mean, I think that's,
I just think it broadens the discussion to a big degree.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be important that the building committee try to stay focused as tightly as possible, because time goes by quickly, and these discussions could go in all different directions.
and I think that's why owner's project management team will be important, and when you hire that person, I think programming would, from my perspective, be something that makes sure they have a background in some experience in doing this kind of work. And I also think when we ask people to volunteer for the building committee, that they recognize it's probably going to be a one-year commitment at least, and if they want to step off after a year, and we can replace them, but that year commitment is going to be important.
Chris?
So Tom and I have been through this basically 3 times, right? Francis Wyman, Memorial.
Francis Wyman happened before I got on.
Oh, it did? Okay, well, and the middle school. And what I would suggest is that putting those decisions, and I know there's school committee decisions and it's advisory, the building committee's advisory, and the school committee doesn't have to go along with their advice. On the other hand, it's very difficult not to. I personally do not think the decision on whether or not to have 1 or 2 schools should be the building committees. I think that should be kept at this level, at the school committee level. I don't think it should be put out there for 1 million people to talk about. The meeting that we did have at Martha's request, well over a year ago now, gave me at least a lot of insight into how people felt. I would like to have that kind of a meeting again, either virtually or however we can do it, to get input, but I think that particular decision and grade configuration should be kept at this level. My opinion only.
No, I agree completely, but I think the building committee could look at maybe with the project manager, some cost differentials, could say, if you want to keep 4 buildings, the Fox Hill price might drop a little bit, but then the town should really commit an additional $10 million to renovate Pine Glen, or, I'm just made that up, please. All I'm saying is, I think they might give the committee some more specifics for people to consider, and then we could have forums or open forums for people to come in and express, who are unrelated to the building committee, to have them express their opinions right to the school committee.
Well,
That's,
who are you planning to put, how would the building committee be made up?
Bob, do you have the specifics as to who they suggest? They have,
It's all right.
they'll give you a list, they'll say,
MSBA gives you a list of.
And we've done it before, so
and-
it's,
and someone has to be, what were the acronym you gave me? MCPPO certified, there needs to be, I'm sure there needs to be parent representation, school committee representation. I'm assuming Mr. Rosenblatt is going to want to sit on the building committee, so again, I think that they'll have a list of people, and the trick is not to make it 67 people, but I think it seems to be, 18 to 20 people from what I remember, from the memorial and from the middle school.
I guess what I'm really trying to make, my point is this: if we decide as a committee that we want Fox Hill School to be Fox Hill School and Pine Glen School to remain Pine Glen School, and it would be maybe next in line to go through for financing, then I think that's what the building committee should work on producing.
Uh-huh,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
Martha?
So could those two processes happen at the same time, for example?
Yes, I think clearly, and I think we'll come to the committee, this was like the 10,000-foot view with just a time period, so you all have an idea. I think this is going to be a regular agenda item for us. I think we'll start to bring you more specifics. So we'll start to say, okay, with the compliance confirmation in the next 30 days, we'll talk about what specifically is in that, and we'll go through sort of specifics of each step as we move forward. So I think maybe in the next meeting, Bob, or 2 meetings, we'll put together who's on the building committee, what the charge should be. I think there has to be a way for you to communicate some values to the building committee. Again, just as an example, from the memorial school, I remember sustainability was something that was important to the committee, and then was translated through to the building committee. I'm sorry, the school committee, I can't say just committee, the school committee to the building committee, and that influenced some of the decisions that were made in terms of the design, and then ultimately when you have to make choices about what to keep and what not to keep, those values sort of translated through. So what did you look up on?
To the chair. So I just have a rough list of who MSBA recommends to be on the committee. Just briefly, an SBC member who is MCPPO certified, local chief executive officer, an administrator or manager, school committee members, superintendent of schools, local official responsible for building maintenance, school principal, member knowledgeable in educational mission and function of facility, local budget official, members of community with architectural, engineering, and/or construction experience, and then there's a field for other. Again, recommendations for the SBC committee, school building committee.
So we'll put all that in one of your packets, again, upcoming packets, and we can talk about that and the process that you want to go through for identifying folks to serve in those capacities.
Martha?
Yeah, so I'm interested in being on the building committee, so is this the kind of thing where at the next meeting or two, as we start identifying, people would say who's interested, from this group, and as well as who we would want to, you're saying we're going to invite people, or is there, like, I'm saying I'm interested, is there a way that we would publicize for people who may be local people with architectural or engineering experience or whatever? How would we go ahead and proceed with that?
Through the chair, I think we should decide that as a committee, because, and the reason we need to have rules is honestly not to say yes to people, it's to say no to people. So if we have 200 people who are interested, that doesn't make for a reasonable committee, so we would need to have some sort of selection criteria, and I think a part of that would be to make sure that we identify what the commitment is, and then people could firmly commit to that. I do remember we had some people on the Memorial Building Committee who were sort of regulars, and there were times when we had some people invited in and others had an interest. So it's not necessarily, hard and fast, and these are public meetings, so people can attend and can listen and can always participate. But I think you all should determine who you want to serve in this committee, and then the process that we'll go through to select it. I think the process should be transparent, even if we have to say no to people. People should understand why we're saying no. If it's first come, first served, then we need to timestamp their interest. If it's if you want people to submit why they're interested and you all select, then we can do that. So I just think there needs to be a clear criteria, and I think there'll be plenty of opportunities for people to get involved or to be heard, even if they're not selected for the building committee. Again, these are public meetings, and I think the postings are specific, and ultimately, as Mrs. Monaco said, and I agree with, the decisions will ultimately come back to the school committee, and so if people want to weigh in, they're always welcome to weigh in at the school committee as well. So I think that's what'll help, and I think the OPM hire is pretty critical. From what I remember, for the Memorial and the middle school, we had the same project manager, and I think they did all the detail work, and I think we're a critical resource to the school committee.
They just actually did the, same outfit did the DPW and rec maintenance facility. I was down there, got a tour of that a few weeks ago, and I was talking to the project manager there. It was the same outfit that we worked with for Memorial Middle School.
They were excellent.
They were very good.
So again, I think that's coming in, but with everything else going on, it's hard to, again, keep everything on the front burner, but we're going to keep the high school building issues on the front burner, and now we're building an elementary school, so we will do that as well. And then obviously we'll try to insert some of the excellent programming things that are happening as well as we move forward. So
Will we be putting out an RFP for the OPM job at some point?
yes,
And will that be a school committee hire, or is that a building committee hire?
again, my thing is I believe it should be a school committee hire, and then the OPM can help us
Work
with the building committee and
Okay.
sort of help us with that.
Yeah. Building committee's totally advisory.
Yeah. Okay. Martha?
So, and I do support the kinds of process that Mrs. Monaco's talking about doing and that we're doing. I do want to kind of suggest that one of the things we're going to look at is, an OPM that's done a project for us that we were happy with, that's worked in the town. Those are all important criteria, but I also think it's important for us to look at other issues in terms of diversity hiring, and looking at other companies and professionals who we might not have looked at before, who might not have worked in Burlington before. And so I'm not saying that means I want somebody or I don't want somebody. I just want us to have that lens as we look for a project manager, that we want to be open to hiring, the best person to match what we're looking for. And it may not always be the person we've always hired. That's nothing against the person that we've had work for the town before, but I just want us to be open to that in this process.
I think we always do that, and
Good.
we're limited by who submits or answers
Absolutely.
our request for proposal.
And again, through the chair, Ms. Simon, I just want to make sure I'm not sure how to say this well, and the MSB always sort of, I think they're always listening, but we're using state money, so the MSBA will have a disproportionate amount of influence on the design, the OPM, a lot of different things. So typically, the project management team has to be pre-approved by MSBA. So if this were a completely Burlington-funded project, the committee would have complete flexibility in terms of, as long as we followed the procurement process, you would have complete flexibility. You may not have complete flexibility depending on who the groups are, and again, my belief is the project management teams have to be approved by MSBA as eligible, just like the design has to be approved and eligible, and those are some of the challenges. And what I would say is the partnership with the MSBA, they do build lots of schools, so usually their advice is pretty good, and you end up with a better product. But
Smaller, but.
smaller, but
Smaller,
but
definitely
but
smaller.
I remember even like number of bathrooms. I remember size of science labs, things like that. The MSBA really dictated for us. So completely understand what you're saying, and I'm assuming they have a very diverse pool of project management teams that they've approved, because I think they have some of the same rules that we would want to follow and some of the same priorities. And it would just be a matter of encouraging people to enter into our process. And what I will say is I think Burlington is a very desirable project because I think our history of getting our projects funded and supported by the community is very good. And so I think that's an attractive component of working in Burlington.
If I could,
Sure.
Chair. I do think that expressing an interest in having applicants to our pool encourages people who might otherwise not apply. So just by talking about it, I think that's an important piece for us to be clear that this is, we aren't just limited to who we've used before. We may choose the person we've used before. I'm not saying I have any particular person or committee, company involved. But I just think having this conversation can be helpful in terms of who we attract to submit proposals.
Yeah, and absolutely. I think we're all in agreement. We're all saying the same thing. I think the project manager did Marshall Simons and Memorial because the procurement process we did for Marshall Simons was an expedited procurement process. We actually used the same project manager and same builder because the projects were so closely staged. And we saved a significant amount of money because both teams were already on site. So, and I forget the bid process, but we did two separate bid processes, and that's really why the team stayed together.
What about an architect later on?
Architect would be later on. Again, we have to have our program defined because the architect would need to know what to design. And then the MSBA has elementary school designs that they have pre-approved. And so the building committee could look at designs that are sort of their model schools. Memorial School is actually a model school, but it would depend on, again, the size of the project, grade configuration, site, what the site looks like, and so there would be a bunch of different things. Or the building committee, ultimately the school committee, could decide that they don't want a model school, and then a designer would come in and design something, hopefully not a snowflake, but they would come in and design something that would be different.
I think MSBA is pushing you towards picking because from a cost standpoint.
Yes.
So
Uh-huh.
I think. Bob?
And through the chair, just for information, the previous OPMs that we've used for middle school memorial had moved along to his business and no longer would be of service to us. The builder that was used for those buildings is actually building the rec department building
Oh, is that
right
what it
now.
was? Is the
So
builder?
again, I think the
Builder, not the-
conversation for information would make sense that we probably would not use that OPM anymore, just because they're no longer in service.
Oh, they were great, too.
But members
It's
of
too bad.
that previous firm
Yeah,
may be at a new firm.
okay.
Okay.
All right, well, we'll cross that bridge, I guess, when we get to it. So we can expect in the next meeting or two, a little bit direction in terms of timeframes and so that we can move forward with the appointment of a committee,
Yep.
because that seems to be the first thing that we're going to have to do between now and August 1st.
Yeah, we have a certification that we need to go through. We'll
Right,
share that,
which
but I
Bob will
think,
handle that through the,
I think we're going to get more granular for each stage as
Okay.
the meetings go along.
okay,
So if you're ever finding that you don't know where we're going or you want more information, just please let us know, and we'll make sure that we spend more time on it or get you more detail.
all right, anything else on that process, which is first step in a long journey, as they say. If there's nothing else under item 7, we do have an item under old business, subcommittee definition.
Again, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank Ms. Gilbert for compiling some of this information. And I forgot something in my office that I'll go get as well. But Ms. Simon, certainly you're capable of asking your question. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think you had some questions about subcommittees versus liaison versus some of the other languages that we were used. I referred to the Mass General Law book, and Sharon looked at our prior policies. Ms. Gilbert, I apologize. So we included the school committee policies in your packet in regards to subcommittee. And in Mass General Law, I could only find reference to subcommittee. I could not find reference to liaison or a different definition to liaison. But I think Sharon found for you another district that how they're using liaison seems to be somewhat parallel to how we are using liaison as well. So I'm not sure, Ms. Simon, if you want to have a more formal definition of liaison, but the MASC did not seem to have a policy advisory making a distinction between or identifying a specific role for liaison. I think there is a very specific role for subcommittee, which again requires posting under the open meeting law and is appointed by the full school committee in terms of their role. There can be permanent subcommittees, or there can be temporary subcommittees for a particular purpose. And if you could just, let me get the Mass General Law book. I think I forgot it, so. And again, through the chair, the reference to the subcommittee was actually in the open meeting law section. It wasn't even under the school committee section. So it says a subcommittee shall include any multiple member body created to advise or make recommendations to a public body, is basically was the definition. So
So, I read through these materials, and thank you, Mrs. Gilbert, for getting all these materials together. And when we look at what we have as our current policies, which were approved in 2009, it gives that we don't have standing committees, that we committees can be created, they will be established by the action of the committee, they will have a list of functions and duties, and et cetera. What I look at our list that we approved last time of our subcommittee assignments, and there's numerous ones that are listed as subcommittees, but I believe they're actually just liaisons. And so I guess what I'd like is for us to, not necessarily tonight, and I could come back with a proposal that was specific if people are interested in this, But what I would envision is that we would not call everything a subcommittee. So I'm the liaison to the Burlington Youth and Family Services. That's not a subcommittee. Mr. Murphy and Mrs. Monaco are liaisons to the Ways and Means Committee.
No,
If they're a
that's
subcommittee, then do we post it as a school committee
Yes.
meeting every time
No,
they
as
go
a-
to the Ways and Means
As a
Subcommittee?
subcommittee meeting.
Is that how we
It's
post it?
always posted.
Is posted as a
Yes.
meeting, okay. So there's certain ones that
Yes.
are Ways and Means, that are subcommittees, but I
Correct.
think that a lot of them aren't.
You're right.
And then I just learned last week, it was probably something I knew a few years ago and then had forgotten, exactly what is the role. Mr. Murphy is a member of the Recreation Commission.
Mhm.
So that's not a subcommittee, or where does that fit? And so I'd like to, I could do it, somebody else could do it, but sort of reword our list so it is more accurate, so that those subcommittees that are subcommittees are listed as subcommittees, and those that are liaisons or other things are listed as liaisons. We have liaisons to our PTOs. I don't
Yes,
remember.
Those are liaisons.
Those are liaisons. I don't think they're listed as subcommittees, but they're not, we don't even, I'd like to specify, there isn't necessarily a legal definition, but I'd like to specify that they're liaisons to each building. We have liaisons to the middle school and to each of the elementary schools. Those aren't subcommittees. So I'd sort of like to be more explicit with the wording on that document and move forward from there. I don't know that we need to change our policy. I'd have to go back and look at it again. I mean, I've looked at it a couple of times, and what I'm saying is I don't think there's something I found that we're not doing, except that I think we're calling some things subcommittees that aren't.
Martha, I'll volunteer to go over it with you and decide what
Okay.
to call various ones.
Okay.
We don't have liaisons to individual schools, only to the PTOs, because the school committee really is supposed to stay away from the schools.
We actually, I think, on the list, have somebody and an alternate for each of these schools.
For the PTOs.
Those are
It's only
That's
for the
only for the
PTOs.
PTOs?
PTO
Oh, okay,
representatives.
all right.
So, but again, I think, Ms. Gilbert, I'm volunteering you as well. We can all help put the list together, and
Okay.
I can certainly do that as well. And,
Well, Mrs. Monaco and I can
Yeah.
probably cover all of it.
We can get the
Yeah.
list from Sharon, and we can just, if we believe it should be a liaison, just change the word, and then bring it back to the whole committee.
so
Okay,
again,
so
I could not
people-
find any legal definition
Okay.
of liaison.
Right, okay.
I'm sure the other three of us will agree that you two can do it.
I'm sure you
Good.
will as well.
Good,
Knock yourselves out.
I didn't expect a problem.
good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Martha. Is there anything else to come before the committee? Any other old business, new business? Do we still do public participation at the end? We don't do that anymore? No. All right, any need for executive session this evening? All right, Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
Oh, good.